I made it to the UFC Contender Series with 7-1 record, with no strength conditioning coach, shitty diet, no nutrition education hardly for sports that I do, like sports education, diet stuff.
Of course,
I just didn't have the knowledge, even until this last fight.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey. To my right here, I have my cousin and co-founder, Drew. And to my left, we are joined today by UFC middleweight Joe Pyfer. Joe, what's going on? Man, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Joe, Drew, appreciate it. I was a little bit late, but we're here and we got it. We're getting it going.
That's all right, man. You're here. That's what matters.
Fresh off a a workout, not a back workout,
Back surgery.
Back surgery and a workout.
But yeah, literally
Don't say that out loud.
Right from the gym. Right from the, we hopefully your doctor's not listening, but
Yeah. Well, there's also a delay on when this will release, so you're safe, dude. You're safe.
I'm good, man. He can hear it is what it is. Got back surgery on Thursday, and what's today? Today's Wednesday, so almost a week come tomorrow. And I was going a little stir crazy. Needed a little pump.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting at home, so I had to get out of the house and then realized that I was late for this. So flew on over here. We made it.
I get you, man. I get you 100%. I know it, the cabin fever, getting stir crazy. You got to move your body. You got to get the pump, dude. You have to have blood flowing.
Yeah.
You know. I support your recovery, what you're doing here. I support your methods. So I have a broken rib right now, and I'm still training, so we're good.
Man, that's a little different. You want to be able to breathe.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and those will take forever. I've had a messed up rib before, and that takes a long time.
Yeah.
Especially if you damage cartilage. That's honestly probably worse than breaking a bone.
I thought it was my floating rib in the back, but then I didn't really have any back pain. And then once, like my right here, my stomach was like a little bit inflamed, and then once it went down. Now I can see like on my side.
It's like
almost
raised.
Looks like something. Yeah, it's raised. Almost looks like something's jutting out. But so the guys over at Martinez are busting my balls because I'm wearing like a compression sleeve around my torso, and they're calling it a girdle. They're like, you wearing you have your girdle on today? And I'm like, look, I need to be here. You know what I mean? You gotta get the blood flowing. You know what I mean? You just need to do it. So I get where you're coming from for sure. So the community, obviously, Fuel Hunt community knows you well, man. Knows you really well. But they may not know much of your story. You know, I think I heard somebody refer to it as like a meteoric rise that you had in the UFC. Like you came out and like rode a rocket, you know, in the UFC with the wins that you had, almost like it happened overnight. But we know that that's not the true story. This is a lifetime of dedication, right, and hard work. Right, grit and determination to bring you to where you are right now. So that's kind of what we want to get into a little bit, and help the community get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, well, to start, I started jiu-jitsu at 4.5 years old, and my father was learning jiu-jitsu through a guy named Steve Haig, who owned Fight Factory, real OG gym back in the day. Like Samuel Orpiza came out of there, Eddie Alvarez started there. Actually, even before that, they started at a place called Body Arts, which was owned by a guy named Angel, and that's where they all met. Then Fight Factory was formed. So as my dad was learning, my dad would come home and teach me. So it was just something that I was in, like, almost like just, I was put in it and I didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? So, and I'm thankful for it, you know what I mean? The best way I can describe, without going in the negative direction between me and my father's relationship that we don't have, is that he gave me tools he never thought I would build a house with. So that's where I'm at with that. But, I'm thankful he started me on this journey that I've taken, to the next level. But I started at 4.5 years old, did jiu-jitsu primarily all my life. And then right around 15, I started wrestling, about 2.5 years. And then, I started boxing at like 7, 8 years old. So it's been a lifetime of work, a lifetime of injuries at this point, but definitely nothing of like I just came on the scene and then just started, beating people. It's been something I've been up and down with just the injuries, and then being able to perform, and then getting myself to a mental place of being able to perform every time. So that's probably been my hardest thing on my journey. But nonetheless, like you said, it's not an overnight thing. So, and I still have a lot of hype, you know what I mean? All these people that think it may be gone because I lost to Jack with the circumstances I fought that fight under, most people would have never fought. So, I'm still the man, and I will be the man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, people are finicky, man. You know, you get all that hype, you come on the scene, you know, you ride the rocket, they're your biggest fan, and then one thing happens, and they hate you, and you know what I mean.
You lost a close decision to a guy who has 17 UFC fights. It's crazy.
Yeah.
An absolute war too. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had 2 sessions that entire. I went through this in my last fight, and I always feel like that's the thing as a fighter. It's a hard time not justifying. You know what I mean? There's no justifying that I lost the fight. I think I lost the fight. I watched the fight. I know I lost the fight. I think he won, and I think he won 3 rounds to 2. Right, but the first 2, I was putting it on him. I heard him a couple of times, didn't realize it. And despite the camp that I had of being constantly sick, I had like one of the worst fevers and sicknesses that I've ever had.
For like weeks.
Oh,
right?
bro, for weeks, yeah. And it wasn't COVID, but it was something where I just kept producing so much phlegm and like lung shit that I just kept coughing up, and it was crazy. And I had Brendan Allen come up. And there were so many people that could attest to the condition that I was in was not right, even to the point that my coaches didn't want me to take the fight.
Yeah.
But new contract, main event, my face on the poster, things like that. And in my belief in myself, I still believed I was going to go out there and be able to put them away. Yeah. And I was shy of that by a little bit, but I'm 27 years old.
That's what the future's for, man.
That's what the future's for. And being young in the sport and 27 years old, I got plenty of time to hit my prime and get better. And I competed with a guy who's been doing it for, in the UFC at that level for years. So it's all good. And
Absolutely.
There was never any hype. It was just who I am as a fighter, and everybody gravitated towards it. So if you don't support me now, then don't come back ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So you say you started jiu-jitsu real early, right? 4.5, something like that.
Yeah.
When did you start competing? Like, did you start competing in
5 years old.
jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
5?
August 3rd, 2000. I was just shy of 6 years old, but August 3rd, 2003. I actually just looked at the medal the other day because I went to the Naga battle at the beach that they just had. So it was the first time I went there in 10 years. And so August 3rd, 2003, Naga.
Amazing.
That was my first competition. I won. I leg locked. I it's a big leg locker. So I leg locked everybody and armbar. So
Right.
August 3rd, 2003, and then I started competing a lot after that. But my go-to used to be leg locks.
and that was your dad getting you into that.
Yeah, it was my dad getting me into that. Yeah.
Yeah. You competing right out of the gate. When wrestling came on the scene, you were in your teens. So was that high school?
Yeah, it was like 15 and a half, almost 16. It was high school. I technically joined my sophomore year, but between the ugly divorce of my family and moving and everything like that, I really couldn't be on the team because of the inconsistency. Like I used to walk to practice and walk back, and my dad wouldn't take me or pick me up and things like that. So I would have to walk, and I missed most of the season because of joining late and then trying to figure out a ride situation.
I got you.
And in the wintertime, it sucks. After sweating, walking home a couple miles.
Yeah.
So that was a little frustrating. But then after we moved, we came up to PA. I joined the wrestling team, and things got super toxic, and he really tried to cut me off from MMA and jiu-jitsu and didn't want me around anybody. The best way to describe our relationship at that point was I was property that other people were trying to buy into, and he didn't like that, so he wanted absolute control, and he didn't want anybody to like me, and if he didn't have a say, then there was no way it was going to happen. So
he was building this MMA prodigy.
So that's how he always spoke. You owe me your life, and I built you, and you're this because of me, and things like that. And there's some truth to it. I am what I am on this path because of you, but I don't owe you the work that I've put in. The work that I put in is mine, and the decisions that I will make will be mine. And I'm not anybody's property, and I got tired of that because if I lost, I disgraced the name, and I was a loser, I was a failure, I was a fuck up, and all these things, and then plus getting physically attacked after that. And then the other side of it was you beat a tomato can. You didn't beat anybody good. And that's he even did that leading up to when I broke my arm on the Contender series. He would, the first time you fought somebody, you'll get your ass whooped and all these things. So
yeah, it's you couldn't win no matter how well you did. No matter if you did win, you just never could win.
Yeah, but then that's when I detached and started doing it for me, and then that's when I really fell in love with it. That's why when I came up to PA, I joined the wrestling team, and regardless of what he said, and and then shortly after I ran away from home.
So I gotta imagine, and we don't if anybody's listened to your interview with Rogan and things like that, like we don't have to get into all the details. Keep it positive, but I gotta imagine that what you described, everything you just described, that type of toxicity was from your start of jiu-jitsu forward. So it started very young, at 4.5 all the way forward, and then kind of came to a head in when you started wrestling or when your parents were divorced.
Yeah, so the abuse, to just, put it out there, the abuse was never through jiu-jitsu. It was included, it was a part of it, and a big part of it, because that's all I did. I wasn't allowed to play football, I wasn't allowed to wrestle, I wasn't allowed to do any other sports. But abuse had started when I was a year old, and child services being involved in our lives, me and my 4 sisters, from the time of being a year old. And from what I was told, I got beat because I shit my diaper and I guess wiped it on the wall as a 1-year-old, and my dad beat the shit out of me for that, and apparently the cops were called, all this shit. So that's when I started getting beat. And then, to my mom's knowledge, that has never, obviously it never stopped. But he was just a violent, aggressive person in general. And it didn't matter whether it was jiu-jitsu or life. The abuse was always there between my mother and my sisters and me. So, but yeah, no. I mean, that it was a blessing at the same time, though, because there's so many good things that I've learned from such a bad situation of people that don't love you, that are supposed to, are supposed to be there for you, that aren't.
They're supposed to protect you.
Yeah, they're supposed to protect you, and that that was the opposite of what our family was. We were the most brutal to each other and the most hurtful because of how we were raised and what we were taught. But then, to close that chapter is like when I left home at 16, I took responsibility for myself, my own actions, and the things that I had done and said and things like that. So, I would say 18 on, because, you don't know shit at 16 years old. So, but yeah, it's not my parents' fault. I've turned out pretty good, I think.
Yeah, your pain becomes your power, dude. Like, that's what we say all the time. But
you've got to be walking that line of, it sounds crazy to say, but like gratitude for those struggles, because they've made you mentally and physically tougher and more resilient. But
I think going through those things teaches you to recognize snakes, and teaches you to recognize people that have ulterior motives. And you can look at somebody and you can feel a genuine feeling, or you can feel that like snake vibe that I don't really like being like,
Energy's
I don't know, almost like your hair stands up. It's so I'm really good at knowing when I feel like people are trying to get close to me for a reason, or whatever it may be. But I don't think I would have learned those things had I not seen such a scheme artist that my father used to be.
There's actually science behind that. It's because you're always on alert. So you're like hyper vigilant to like your interactions with people. What they're saying, how they're treating you, all that. You're analyzing at such a high level. So that's why like you now have a skill. You have,
and it's also a skill. Counter to that is, I've met some of the best people in my entire life, and even though I had all those things going on, I always kept those people that I guess I never idolized anybody, but I always respected or cared for or wanted to be around. Like people like Sam Orpiza, known him since I was 10 years old, still friends, like close as shit with him. Sean Brady, I've known since I was a teenager. Obviously we're on the same team and we're super close now, and we train together all the time. But I've had some, my high school wrestling coach that took me in and even provided me the opportunity to even make it, or even try to make it as a fighter. I would have never been here without him. And that was my PA wrestling coach when I was 16. So
one thing that's come up over and over again today, we do a few shows a day, right? And with some of the previous guests was like, you can't do it alone. Like there's always people that are going to be in your life that help you, point you in the right direction, or pave a little bit of the path so that you can reach your potential, because they see it in you. So it sounds like some of those people that you just mentioned, they're those people. I've never met Sam in person, but I have, I supported his run. He did a little run there.
Great guy to have on here.
Yeah, I would love to have him actually as a guest. I would love to. A lot of what he said and did during his political run, I support, which isn't a surprise, you know what I mean? You know what we stand for here, so.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what we stand for.
Nah, he's the man, bro. He I took a little convincing at first. Like, he told me, I couldn't get him to coach me at first.
Yeah.
And just between the turmoil in his own life and him working multiple jobs and having, a newborn and a fiance and all those things, and I wound up convincing him, because it was like, he tested me. He really tested me. And I used to hate some of the things, Like make me show up somewhere at 4 a.m. just to see if I would do it, and I would. And I wrote a letter about my life story that he still has that I don't even remember I wrote, but me and him shook hands and made a deal a long time ago that this is what we were going to give our concentration to, and if this is what we want to do, we got to go full steam ahead. And without him, there's so many people that have their hand in the jar to my success that I'll always pay respect to. So
and you support them and you pay it back to them, which that says a lot about who you are as a person. So you had to leave Fight Factory at some point, right? And where did you head to for jiu-jitsu?
So Fight Factory closed down.
Yep.
Steve Hegg didn't want anything to do with the business anymore, and there's some drama and things like that I don't fully understand because I was too young. But basically, I think he lost the love of the sport or whatever the case may be, and I don't know if it was profitable. Who knows? But so we left there. We didn't even leave; it closed down, and then we went to Balance Studios with Rick Miguelis, who I've known since I was 5 years old. So always knew Rick, and he's always been the same guy. He's never switched. He's never been like a guy that treated you differently. He was always welcoming and always hospitable to us, and so I felt like it was a good jiu-jitsu school, and at the time it was like I was still a kid, not like I can really choose where I'm going. So we went there, and I was there for years into my pro career, amateur, and there used to be a few of us. There used to be Anton Berzin was a up and coming guy at the time. Basil was training. Who else was up there? We had Tim Carpenter, and Sammy was still fighting. So like we used to get a good group every Sunday of guys that were sparring. I'd be under 16 sparring with all of them. And but it was primarily jiu-jitsu gym. So later on, and then when COVID hit, I really couldn't train there because they were worried about getting shut down or whatever. You get in trouble. So again, this is where my relationship with Sean throughout the years, we weren't close or anything like that, but I knew him from Semper Fi. I went up there and trained with them a few times, and that's where me and him had met. And he was like 17, I was like 13, 14 at the time. Really? So I've known him for a while, and before he had all the tattoos. I think he still had this Irish Pride tattoo or whatever, but I hit him up throughout the years, and I was like, yeah, man, like I know I'm going to have to make a move. I just knew I wasn't getting the most, I couldn't get sparring partners.
And at that point you were eyes set on the UFC or making...
my mind's been on the UFC since I was 8 years old.
That's cool.
So it was just a matter of, I don't even know why I never went to Marquez at first, to be honest, or Daniel Gracie's with all them at the time. I think it was more or less just my loyalty of like caring about being with the guys that I came up with. Andre Petrosky I've been training with for 10 plus years or 10 years, just about 10 years. And then he went over there, Andre went over there, a couple guys from Delaware I used to train with went over there, and I was like, all right, well, obviously they like it too. I'm going to go over there and just talk to the coaches and find out. So I had my second surgery. Actually, I just was coming back from my first elbow surgery from my arm broke, and I went over there during COVID, and I was like, I talked to Sean. Would I be able to come over there and talk to them? Would you guys think about having me on the team? And Sean was like, absolutely, dude. Like we've been waiting for you to come do this. So that's
open arms. Open arms. Yeah. So when you're at Balance, you're starting your amateur career right through your pro career. You said right. So like, what was
everything was make your own schedule. That was the problem.
Yeah.
It's not an MMA school. They're a great jiu-jitsu school. Yeah. And Rick and Phil understand that. They wanted to help us. The only reason we were all there is because they would just help us and let us have a place to train. But they didn't run MMA practices. We would just do random Sunday sparring, and then there was a coach there that was having sparring sometimes on like Tuesdays, but they used to try to exclude me. These aren't guys I'm going to mention, but they kind of excluded me a little bit, where it was like I was never like invited to the sparring. It was like almost like it felt like animosity because I would whoop their ass, and then it was like the coaching wasn't working. But
how old are you at that point?
At that point, I was like 22, 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now I'm becoming a man, and it was like, but yeah, it is what it is. I would work with Sam, but because I wouldn't work with their guy, it was kind of like,
I got you.
Never any like beef, and But yeah, I just knew that there was more that I was missing is the main point. I knew that if I was going to be a UFC world champion or if I wanted to be in the UFC, I couldn't do it training at a jiu-jitsu gym.
Sure.
I had to have MMA classes, MMA striking, MMA drills, and I knew all that was missing. But it's kind of like that ignorance is bliss. And then I had enough downtime after I broke my arm to say, okay, I need to change.
Even with the inconsistent, well, you were consistent, but the lack of some of the sparring and drills you needed. What was your amateur career like? What was your pro career like prior to the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I had one loss. I was 4-1 as an amateur. My first fight, I just took a fight.
Yeah.
I was working full time. I had a toxic relationship with an ex-girlfriend that was terrible. Probably the worst person I've ever met. I hate to say that, but like just worst person I ever met that like put me in a bad state of mind and just like depression and not eating type of deal, getting my heart broken type stuff.
Yeah.
And I weighed in at 174 pounds fighting at 185 because I wouldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. And that happened for the first two fights. So luckily the first fight I got a 17-second knockout. Smoked that dude. Dude was terrible. And then I fought another guy, and they switched 3 opponents on me. And it was a D1 wrestler, and the guy was actually 85er who had known the fight was coming for a while, and I didn't know till the week of, and I shouldn't have taken the fight, but I weighed in again, 176 pounds, and I lost the decision. And then, I finished out my career. I moved in with my coach after all this toxic crap was over. Basically, I got evicted out of my house because of a certain situation. And my coach took me in, and my car got repossessed, phone got shut off, had no car insurance and nothing. I had nothing. I quit my job and everything, and I was like, I can't do this half in, half out. And I knew that after I lost the decision because the guy wasn't better than me by any means. It was just like I didn't perform. And I was too small, and I wasn't weight training, and I wasn't eating right.
Yeah, you said too much shit
broke.
going on.
Too much shit going on.
It's very hard to. I'll tell you this: it's very hard to make it as a fighter being broke.
Yeah,
It really is, and it's also hard to make it as a fighter, as like a Conor McGregor, because you get too comfortable. So it's like you gotta have that happy medium. And so my coach took me in and said, if this is really what you want to do, like I expect you to make it. And he paid for me to get my car out of repossession. And I always remember that conversation because I was so down that I was like, dude, I'm a bum. And he was like, I'm gonna give you this money because I can. And he's like, if you're going to tell me you can pay it back, he's like, that's your word. And he's like, and as developing men, all we have is our word. So if you say you're going to pay me back and you don't, I'll still love you. I'll still be your friend, but I know who you are and I know what kind of person you are. So I shook his hand. That fight, I made my pro debut. By the time I moved in, I was 4-1 as an amateur. I'd gotten all knockouts, and I was making my pro debut, and I paid him back. And then I went, I was on a tear. I went 6-0 before I lost.
So he's like almost like the father figure. You like maybe like
100%, 100%. I'm brother. I needed. I wouldn't even say father figure. I would just say brother that was able to guide me. I would say Sam was more like the father figure because of the role he took. Like his name's Will Harmon. Will Harmon was always there for me, but he never overstepped and tried to tell me what to do or how to feel. He's not a guy that's like terribly emotional. I know he is emotional, but he's very dry. And Sam would tell me, man, I used to hate Sam sometimes because like, you always feel like you're being criticized. And when you're young, you don't know how to take criticism. So, but luckily I had two good people. He was the coach and Harmon was the support in my home life. And it felt like an actual home of love and stability that I'd never had.
That's awesome.
And I didn't have to go to sleep with, lingering thoughts of how long is this going to last, or am I going to get hurt, or whatever the case is.
Like the first time you were comfortable.
First time I can say I had a home.
And we were just talking on a recent podcast with an entrepreneur, a friend of ours, Craig Ballantyne, but he's like, you have to put level 10 effort into your level 10 problems. Like if your home life is falling apart, but then you want to be a UFC champion, like those two things don't equal. Like you have to at least have that like sense of home and comfortability and normalcy to like be able to perform in entrepreneurship, UFC, like anything, you know what I mean? To be great in life, you have to really apply that effort to all areas of your life. And
which requires a lot of being selfish. Especially in this sport more than any.
Singular focus. You know what I mean? Like to get to where you want to be, your ultimate dream, you need to be locked in, quote unquote, selfish, singular focus. If you got all that toxicity surrounding it, it's just not going to happen, dude.
Yeah, it's tough. You're always distracted. You're always distracted, and it wears on your mind. And if your mind is worn out, like your body's going to follow. So Yeah, I've gotten to much better places. I think that was why my first loss, I went 6-0. I won the title for Ring of Combat. I won the title for Art of War. I won that was it. And then I lost the title the second I won it. And I fought a guy that I was absolutely dominating. Took him down, mounted him, took his back. But I was like, I'd forgiven my dad, right? So it was like the weirdest feeling. I'd never fought where I was walking to the cage and I was like, shit, I don't feel like doing this. Like, that's literally what I was thinking as I was walking out, and my entrance song and all this, and everybody's hyping me up, and I'm like, I'm the only one that's not hyped. I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And it scared me inside because I was like, I don't know what's wrong.
You don't know if
and I didn't tell
is.
anybody. You know what I mean? You don't tell anybody. Pride, ego, like, you're the man, you're knocking everybody out, and everybody expects you to knock them out. And I'm like, yeah, I should.
Yeah.
And I was trashing them. Got so tired just trying to dominate and wrestle and win every second of the fight. And then I wound up getting caught in a choke, and I refused to tap, got put to sleep.
Damn.
And it was a wake-up call that it was like, I'll never take another fight again if I'm not mentally healthy.
Yeah.
I was suicidal. I was depressed. I just felt like empty. It felt numb. Didn't care, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to care. If you don't care about this, then you shouldn't do it because that's how you get hurt. And I lost to a guy that, you know, with respect, I still talk to. I think is a good human. His career didn't really go on a trajectory out after that. And yeah, you know, sometimes it irks me because it's like, I wish I had learned. If I had had guidance, I probably would have been the best in the world at this point. My journey's just going to take a little bit longer to be the best in the world. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, exactly right. It's just going to take a little longer.
Yeah.
But like when you get there, like how fully formed you are now mentally, not just physically, but mentally as well. I think it's all things happen for a reason. So when you get there,
I'm a
be the
religious
right
man.
time.
I'm going to keep it to that. But you know, everything happens for a reason, and it's if it's not happening when you want it, then you're missing what the message is. There's got to be something else to learn from it. And
Ain't that the truth, bro?
I've had to
That's well
convince
said.
myself that is a real belief. If I maybe like was weak in my belief before, I'm very strong in it now because it's the one thing that's kept me being able to go through surgery after surgery after surgery and understand that my journey's only over when I stop putting into myself and stop showing up. So
Yeah,
and I'm not ready to give up. So
Absolutely. So you're in your pro career, right? When do you get the call for Contender Series for the first time?
So I lost my first fight. I was 6-1. I came back. I went out to Colorado, did some elevation training. Didn't need to. Just wanted a different look. You know,
Yeah,
at that point, I just knew something was. I knew something wasn't like. I always used to complain. Like I used to come home and tell my girl that, man, these guys don't want to spar me. Like everybody would avoid me. Like because I would go hard, and I'd be slumping motherfuckers. So it was like, but that's the intensity that I brought. It wasn't. I was trying to hurt people, but some. You ask people now, and it's so self-conceited and douchey, but it's like I hit hard, right? So it's like sometimes people spar you like you hit hard when you're not, or like you don't realize you're hitting hard, and then everybody starts going at this high level, so you start to match it. You know, you match the intensity, and it's like I couldn't get any sparring partners, and so I was like, man, I gotta get different looks. So I went out there, got humbled by Neil Magny, actually, if you can believe it. I'm much bigger than him at that time. I was still bigger than him. And I would be doing great for 2 minutes, and then he would just start whooping my ass. Like I'd be gassed out, the elevation, and his cardio was great.
Yeah.
And I knew that something was wrong. I was like, I can't be getting my ass whooped by 170 pounders and like guys that aren't like the elite strikers in the division. You know, he's good, but he's not like the elite striker that's knocking everybody out. He'll break you with pace.
Yeah.
So I went out there, got a different look, came back, fought, won, got another knockout, rebounded, and then they gave me the opportunity for the Contender Series the first time. And it was against Dustin Stoltzfus. I don't even know if he's in the UFC anymore. I know he just got finished again by Bruno Ferreira, so I don't know if they cut him or not. But I didn't see any news articles about it. But so I show up.
So what was it? What was it like when you got that call?
Cried, cried, happy. I don't even, maybe I didn't even cry. I think I got like real teary-eyed and choked up like the next day, but then I was like, let's fucking go. I was hyped up. I was like, I was freaking out. All I wanted was that opportunity. You know, that's all I've ever begged for in my life.
Did you feel like at that point, like the dream you had since 8 years old to be in the UFC was materializing?
No, because I'm not, I'm an impulsive person. So like if I want something, I go and I get it. But if I can't, like I don't feel anything's real until it happens. So that's a good thing for me, because if not, it's like I get too far ahead of myself and you start envisioning like what you're going to have after you win or what you're going to do after you win. It's like It's too much.
Yeah, I get it.
The only thing I dream of or emphasize or like plan for the future is how I'm going to finish somebody. Like I have all these weird dreams or these thoughts of just daydreaming of like the finish over and over and over. Even myself getting finished or getting beat or something. It's I replay every scenario possible. So I was just immediately nerves in the stomach and just like, you know,
ready to go.
I'm gonna get this so that's how I felt. And then the fight shortly after came and
took a turn.
yeah,
A little bit of a turn,
I had a hard weight cut. First of all, I had a guy out there with me. I had Sam Orpizza, my only coach. That's all I had. I didn't have a training partner besides Sam. I didn't have, and I had a very toxic friend out there. You know, we're not friends anymore. I still was cleaning up my life, you know? And I had a friend out there that was like, you know, I had no structure. I ran my camp. I had my own strength conditioning. I had my own, and I still made it. I made it to the UFC Contender Series with 7-1 record, with no strength conditioning coach, shitty diet, no nutrition education hardly for sports that I do, like sports education, you know, diet stuff.
Course,
I just didn't have the knowledge. Even until this last fight, carb intake was terrible. I was at 100 carbs basically a day for.
Oh my god!
Bro, that's and that would be at nighttime, and I was just a moron, and that's probably what led to all my injuries, like just lack of, and I think ignorance. You know what I mean? I was just. Everything from a kid, I was always taught protein. But anyway, that's another story. So I made it to the UFC with no training partners hardly, nobody helping me weight cut, nobody teaching me anything. The only person that taught me anything was my striking coach, which was Sam Orpizza. And I had a friend who didn't know shit, who was, you know, heavy as hell and ate whatever he wanted.
And on top of all that, you're battling mentally for your health and your wellness.
I don't have contact with my family. I have to, you know.
I gotta imagine you don't have contact with your family, but I also gotta imagine that they can still influence your mind and can still turn your screws somehow through somebody else.
If I was talking,
text,
if I was talking to them at that point. So the real story is, which I don't care to say, is that I punched my sister's boyfriend in the fucking mouth because he was a meth head. And that was the last time any of them talked to me. And I was cool with that. So, but that happened 2 weeks before my first Contender Series fight, and then they all laughed after I broke my elbow, I assume. So
you, I mean, even though that was 2 weeks before you cut him off, that's still rattling around in your mind.
Yeah, but yes, it was. But I have to say, after I lost my first pro fight and I got choked out, I looked at the MMA game so much differently. I was like, I don't need to win every second of the round. I don't need to beat him every single second. I need to beat him every exchange. I need to beat him every 20 seconds. I need to dominate every 30 seconds. Like, I have 15 minutes to fight. This is not a sprint.
Long game.
Yeah, I just had to slow it down because it just was immaturity. It was rage. I was always going out there just blitzing people.
So up until the Contender Series, you've had like all the coaching up now with like Coach John and then like anyone like Dylan like helping out and Marquez, like all that team and that structure, like in that.
Didn't have it.
You had none of that?
None of it.
Wow.
All I had was Sam Orpizza. And we would, you know what we would do? We would go hit pads and edge. And that was most of my training.
That's wild.
I never had much sparring. I sparred once a week. I did my own strength conditioning, which was just straight lifting at that time. Like, if you look at my first Contender, I was Yoki. And
Who were you sparring with once a week?
Basil. If that. And then Corey Anderson, actually.
Yeah,
during COVID. Yeah, me and Corey's a man.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah. He's solid.
Yeah, he's a good family man, and I always respected him. And I'd gone up there because I'd known Eddie since I was 5 years old, Alvarez. And he took me up there, and I would train with Corey sometimes, like once a week. I tried to get twice a week. Like, I would
Jersey?
go to him.
At Ricardo's in Jersey? Or
so Nick Catone.
Yeah.
So I would go up there and train once with him, and then he would come up to Balance on like a Wednesday when nobody was around. Obviously, we weren't allowed, and he would come spar with me sometimes. So that's who I was getting my training with. And then I almost forgot my best friend at the time, David Stevens. Like, I was using, he literally had never fought in his life. He's never been in a street fight since he was middle school. He didn't know anything about. He was just a meathead wrestler, lifter, like, you know. And he was my body, and that's who I used for wrestling.
Was he? Okay.
He was 5'8".
Oh, I thought you said you were sparring with him.
You weren't punching him.
Well, I would sometimes. Yeah, that's who I had. I had a best friend, and I had Corey Anderson, and not even Basil that much because
I didn't know that about Corey, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. So no, Corey will tell you I've come a long way from when I sparred him and I wasn't that good. I've always been like good for my age, but like then I just substantially got better, and me and Corey have been going at it for a few years. But dude, like I said, I made it there with the bare minimum, and that was impressive on its own. I had 6 finishes in 7 fights by the time I made it there. I actually, believe it or not, I had all finishes besides one my whole entire career until Jack. I lost a decision, and then my second fight I won a decision.
Yeah.
But I have 13 wins and 12 finishes. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know how to get people out of there.
It is kind of like when you see the way you win in the UFC, like it's like it almost seems kind of crazy that it took so long for you to get there, or longer than we would have liked, or you would have liked. But like, because it's like when you're in there, other than the one loss you have in the UFC that was literally a war, it's like it's dominant fashion every time.
Every time.
Do you feel like? I'm glad you said it, because I was going to ask you if that's what it was. When you were going out and you're blitzing and you're just raging, right? Do you feel like you've changed your game a little bit? Like you said, you don't have to win every second, every 10 seconds. Do you still feel like you have that rage and that it's just harnessed? Or have you released it and what's in there is someone different?
Yeah, so exactly. So they're like 2 different things. I think rage and the person that's dark in me is different. I think rage is out of immaturity at that time, and not understanding that it's not anybody's fault but mine now. And I used to fight because he said I would be a loser, sleep in floors, plunge in toilets, and be a fucking janitor and all this shit. And he always put me down. So it was like, fuck you, I'm going to win. And I'm going to rub it in your face. Because I know he would watch. He never actually has watched or came to it. Even when we were talking in my early amateur career, I left him tickets before. I shouted him out and one thing because I thought he was in the crowd. He never showed up. Like, the dude's a turd. Let's just leave it. He's just a turd. And so I used to fight out of that rage of like, he's not going to prove me wrong. I'm going to prove him wrong. And then when I forgave him, that's when I got sad, because it was like I felt lost. Like, and it was like, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know what makes me tick. Other than when I'm fighting, that's all I have.
Yeah, when you have all that fire inside of you and it's attached to the rage, when you release the rage, you're like, where's my passion,
what's my meaning?
My fire, my meaning? Yeah.
I didn't know what motivated me, and that's why I walked out to the fight, because I had forgiven him around that time. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm fighting for. I don't have that rage. I don't know what I'm fighting for. But, and that dark person of me being able to hurt somebody is still there. I don't have to, that's always going to be a part of me. That's just me. Like, I enjoy knocking somebody out or choking somebody out, or, I enjoy the competition. And I don't know I don't know if that's like a bad person in me, because I think we all have a bad person in us. It's just how much we use it. So, or
how we use it, right? We all have that dark passenger, right?
Yeah.
But like,
now it's like my motivation is, you're going to take my money from me. You're going to take my food from me. You're going to take my house from me. You're going to take things that I like. You're going to take my life away from me, my dream.
Life.
So, and you want to take my name. And I think that's why I've gotten pride. Like, I have to look at how far I've come. Nobody in my family was a professional athlete. Nobody in my family is like some special collegiate athlete or even college graduate for that matter. You know what I mean? They're not that smart of a bloodline.
Yeah.
We're all pretty trash. And until me, and I'm not saying that lightly. Like,
I mean, I don't,
so
it's probably a little early. I mean, we're a little ways into the show, but like, that's one of the things that I respect most about you, is because you changed the cycle.
I'm changing the cycle. I can't say I've changed it yet, but I'm on my way.
Yeah.
I'm not done. I got a lot more I want to do. So,
and you're also You're the Joe in a long line of Joes, right?
Yeah, I'm Joseph Oliver Pyfer the fifth,
right?
Wow.
So like,
I will say, like, I mean, my dad was in my opinion, could have been a better dad. Like, obviously nowhere near the level at which yours was, but I think I learned personally how to be a better dad through what my dad wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like if that's in your plan, eventually you'll probably be the best dad to your son or daughter.
Yeah.
Not strictly, but like a lot of due to the fact that you will be everything you never had.
Yeah.
I think that's a part. I try to make that not be the reason though, because I don't want him to be the forefront of why I think I should be a good father or be a good dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or just be a good person. What people define as good people is very different from person to person, but I think being a good person or being successful isn't like monetary value, like money or things like that, and cars and house, but it's going to be how you treated the people that you love, right? And that's and I failed at that. I've failed at that pretty miserably with a lot of people, actually, and that's something I want to do better with, and that's something I'm trying to do better with. You know what I mean? So I would say I'm a decent person. I don't know if I'm a good person. I don't know if I'm a nice person, but I'm on my way, and I have the want to change, and I have the will to change, and I'm working on those things. I don't burn people, you know what I mean? I don't steal. I don't never killed anybody. I don't do drugs. Like I don't, you know, I live a very quiet life. But you know, I think I could be more. I could be a nicer person.
I think we all could be, man. You have the want and the will, like you said. It was really well said, and that's what matters, man.
Yeah.
And people that can admit that they're not perfect and have failed too will understand that and will respect you for it. You raised a really interesting point about, you know, people in your life. There's an adage, right? People in your life show up and they're either an example of what you should be or a cautionary tale of what you should not be. You raise a really interesting point about, like, you know, you don't want the reason to be, like, maybe kids are in your future, I don't know, but you don't want the reason that you're a great father to be because you had a shitty father. Like you're fully even releasing that.
Yeah,
You're
no,
like,
because
I'm
I
just
forgive
gonna
him.
release that. Yeah, exactly.
He fucked up, and I forgive him.
Yeah.
He had a rough life himself.
I mean, it takes a lot of strength to do that, man, because it could be easy for you to just say, oh yeah, well, you know, I'm a great dad because I had a really fucked up, shitty dad.
Yeah, well, that's a poor excuse to be a good dad, I think, because
That's
you're
the interesting point that you raised. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's a shitty excuse, and
Yeah.
if that's your reason, then I think that's a vague reason, and you're probably not a good dad.
I think it's probably the spark.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's up to you, like you said. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's right and wrong, right? So that's and if I was to say like why I don't associate with some people in my family, it's for that reason, because they're not anywhere further in their life than when I left. They're still in that same mindset, and it's because mom and dad did this, or mom did this.
You become a prisoner. Like it's still not going on, but you're a victim and a prisoner.
And I don't want to. It's like, hey, you know right and wrong. You know what's good. You know what's bad. And if you're not going to make those changes, and you're not going to make those sacrifices, and you're just going to keep blaming somebody else, and I don't want to be around you. So like that's where sometimes I'm a little cold. Like I've had family reach out that has basically pleaded and begged me to come get involved in their domestic abuse, and I will not do it, and I will not associate myself with it. And you know, they kind of look at it as like, you're abandoning me, and when I called you. But it's like, hey, look, it's been almost 6 years, I haven't heard from you, and you were fine. So
if anything, man,
I've detached my love for what's supposed to be family. It's no longer there, because I forgave them, forgive them, and I understand that my life is better without them.
Yeah,
So.
and you're doing your part because you are showing them that there's a different way.
Yeah.
When you take control of your circumstances and you shed that victim mentality, there's a different way. You can build a life that you love for those you love. It doesn't have to be the way that they're living their lives or continue to. So you're already doing a service to them by setting a good example, man.
Yeah.
So your first fight in the Contender series obviously ends horrific injury, right?
Yeah. Dark place again, mentally.
Yeah, it seems like you've done the work to get to a good place to get there, right? And then, you're maybe not believing that your dream to be in the UFC is materializing because you see the work that's in front of you and the work that's got to be done, but you've put yourself in a good headspace to get that work done.
Yeah, and I was winning the fight. It felt good.
Right?
Felt good. Everything was going well, and I wrapped up his head on a scramble, and I was going to go for a guillotine, and I heard my coach say, go for it, which was Sam, and then it was kind of like I kind of froze because it's not what I do. I don't jump guillotines, and I don't go for. I'm not like a desperate submission guy, like just throw it and hope I get it. So I never wrap. Even though I've been mat returned 1,000 times where I posted my hand out, I never wrap, and I did. And him lifting me high enough, and he got like a good angle on it, and me posting out, it just dislocated and then broke backwards, and
radial also, right?
Radial head explosion, which is like my rotation, so I can have my hands under, but I can't turn my hand over, so I can't do power cleans. That's like as far as my wrist turns, so I can't do any of that. And then my arm's short, my arm's bent all the time, so it's like, that moment, realizing that almost 20 years at that point, and then I'm sitting, I get surgery, or I didn't even get surgery. My arm's like double the size, and it's all purple and brown. And I'm sitting at Harmon's house, who I live with, and I'm sitting on his back patio. And I just remember, like, it was a nice day. It was a little breezy, but I just remember like crying, like I failed. Like, what if I wasted
like it's
my
over.
whole? Yeah, it still even gets me a little bit now because I just remember how like, just how dark that time felt. And then I was like, fuck, man, like, did I just waste my whole life? And I have no college education. I have no nothing. Yeah. And then it was like, I failed everybody, So I go and I get the surgery. I come back. I join Marquez. I talk to John. Talk to Sean. I was never a Daniel Gracie guy, so I don't care to say that. I never liked him. But I joined with John and Sean and started training there. I realized something was wrong. My elbow was like in excruciating pain. It was almost like it was locked at 90 degrees, and I went back to the same surgeon. He said, "Oh, you're fine." It's just like,
how long was that after the first surgery?
A year.
A year.
Yeah, a year.
Because
I think almost a year. Yeah, it was almost a year. So
because the period of time that was dark, like we're not talking about 6 months. We're talking about 2 years. 2 years probably between
almost.
Contender.
I think it was a year and like 9 months.
Yeah.
So
that's a long ass time.
Yeah, 8 months to a year for the first one, and then to just get told that you have to get basically the same surgery without the screws. Yeah. I had a torn forearm, and they had to cut the muscle fascia or some shit. It's like a saran
What
wrap.
did you have, like a spurs or?
So I had a bone growth behind the elbow that was impeding on my nerve. So it was the same thing that was like I just got back surgery for, except it was much more excruciating because I couldn't even extend my elbow. Well, I can't say much more, but it hurt.
So you have the second surgery, like during that period, like you said, like you were over there with Coach John, like you were training.
So once I was cleared to come back and be able to do physical activity and like try to start doing things, as I came back, I realized like something was wrong. It was the first, I only did pads with John like once, and then I was trying to do Dutch drills. He used to be over at the Red Door under the L, and I was training there, and then I kept telling him like, hey, something's wrong. So I went and I got, a second opinion. Yep. And there was a bone growth behind there, Dr. Tosti, and he's actually done another elbow surgery. He's done 2 surgeries on me. That's crazy. And I went and I got another surgery, but to mentally, he told me, he was like, look, there's a 30% chance that everything will go well.
I wanted to touch on that, yeah.
And you might have nerve damage, and you might have this, and you might not ever be able to fight again if this goes wrong. But your chances are 30%. And I remember I just met him, and I sat there. I was like, all right, cool, let's book it for next week.
You're probably thinking week. Like 30% is better than 1%. Let's
30% was, I was like, we got it, let's go.
Yeah.
So right there, I didn't even like consult with anybody. I was just like, let's go, sign me up. And that next week I went and got another surgery, and sucked. So then they cut inside here, they cut a big like 6-inch, and then they cut this all the way back open, and so I had to go through rehab. I was back at square one, man.
What were you doing? So I'm assuming you're working. You got to be working somewhere.
I was working at a speed shop as a mechanic. I learned to be a mechanic because my friend at the time had a speed shop, and it was failing miserably, and he had no help, no employees, and he was running the business into the ground, long story short, and just didn't run it well.
I'm just going to pull some transmissions out of cars.
I was pulling transmissions out of cars on day 3 after being out of surgery, man. I remember it was a Subaru, too. I had to put a new clutch in there, and but I love cars. I'm a big car guy. I love cars. I love working with my hands, and I love being in a shop environment, putting on good music, and just...
Was that the first time that you were... So you love cars and stuff, but was that the first time you were working in that?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
And because he was my friend and I was helping him, it helped me pay the bills, so...
So you're working...
You had no idea really what to do. He just like, come help me. And
I basically watched YouTube a lot and taught myself on my own car. I still have the same car I learned on, which was a 2000 Camaro F-body, who I just put a big-ass turbo on that thing. Can't wait to get it back.
Nice.
I'll post pictures of it when I get it. But so I learned on that car, and I learned on the job.
So you're working, you're obviously PT. In physical therapy, right? PT, rehabbing, you're doing some training.
No.
Or no
Not allowed.
training it.
No, not allowed.
Until you're cleared.
Yeah, not allowed until I'm cleared. Couldn't do
Yeah.
anything. I would do like little things, but I just honestly, if I'd be quite honest, I was like dead inside. Even going through all the PT again, I just had no desire.
What?
And I felt skinny, and I felt like body dysmorphia. I think that's what it's called.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's what
and
it's
I
called.
just, I felt like shit about myself. I
So
was
at
skinny.
any point, did you, in that stretch, did you think you were done, or?
No. All I kept talking about was I was going to come back. But
So you
at
knew it
the
was
same
just
time,
temporary.
it was like I knew that's what my heart wanted. I just didn't have the energy. I don't know why I didn't, but I just didn't have the energy to do the work.
But you always knew it was temporary.
I always knew it was temporary, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait until, and I always had the stress of money. I was so broke that I was just like, I can't stop working to go train. I just can't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed. There's nothing I could have done. Like, I can't.
Yep.
There are
Yeah.
things I could have done. That's not true. I could have jabbed the
Yeah.
bag of 5,000 fucking times, but
Yeah.
just couldn't do it.
What did you do to pull yourself through that mentally, other than just gut it the fuck out?
It was the people, my girlfriend and, her family and, Sam and Will Harmon,
Again.
his family, and just having all those good people at that time to rely on to just tell me, Harmon would never say anything too great, but I used to look at my girl and be like, I used to get all choked up and be like, I'm going to change our lives. Like, I'm going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And she would just say, I know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And, she
awesome.
would just say, I know. And that still gets me,
Yeah.
because it's like, I just remember being like, I can't,
Yeah.
bothers the shit out of me. And I think that's where my rage comes from. Cause you're not taken just from me. So it was like, I'm going to come back. And Harmon was like, I know you can do anything you put your mind to. Sam says it doesn't matter what you did, whether it was real estate or racing or whatever. He was like, if Joe Pyfer makes up his mind on something, he can do anything he fucking wants. And so it was just hearing all that.
You got a book of proof too at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, you got some setbacks, and yes, you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel and it's over. It's really not, but you feel that way.
Different person comes out.
You got a book of proof. Like, look, I've been here before. I can make it through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, having the people in your corner like consistently through all those ups and downs, so invaluable, man. So invaluable.
Yeah, man, you can't rent good friends. You know what I mean? So you find them, try to keep them as long as it's a healthy exchange and
Yeah.
both have something to gain. And even if it's just laughing with each other, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people think that it's just like you guys are friends, but hey, somebody's got to bring something to the table. You like this person because they make you laugh. They like you because you have knowledge. Who knows if that's the exchange, and that's it. It doesn't have to be money, but
Yeah, you're super tuned into that. I pick up during the show here, like you understand that. Like I think a lot of people when they look for friends, they look for people that can be everything to them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that's not the case. Like,
yeah, sometimes that's not their purpose.
Yeah.
And you'll have friends that'll come in your life and they might be good for a period and then the chapter closes. I'm not saying that just go through friends, but I've had some very lifelong friends for a long time. Sean's being one, Sam being one, Eddie Alvarez being one, like Ricardo Miguelis being one. And that's the thing too. I never, I wanted to address how people like cross train and things like that. Like I never burned one single bridge with any gym that I was at. The only gym that kind of felt some type of way towards me, which we have cleared up, was only because I was hurting people, and that was more or less like the people in the gym, not the gym itself. Then my dad tried to get me kicked out of that gym, and he was a turd with that. So, but I think people should be able to cross train, as long as their team that they're representing is their team, and they're not, you're not spending more time at that team than your own, and that's my opinion on it. And as long as it doesn't conflict with people that are in the gym. Like I wouldn't go train at Killcliff because Gilbert Burns is there because Sean's fighting him. Like, that's me. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want Sean to go down there and fucking train with Gilbert if they were friends and I'm fighting Marc-Andre Barrios. You know what I mean? Like it's just So and I'm not very big on cross training. I like it if they come to us, but I don't really like going out to other people.
I also, to Marquez's testament, like I feel like when you're with the best, learning from the best, training with the best, you don't really have to seek that outside.
Well, I'll say this, hands down, we have the best MMA program, I think. And I've gotten better. That's my biggest thing. I won't take a fight unless I feel I've gotten better at something. And luckily I can say almost every time I'm able to verbally say without any doubt what I've gotten better at. And like the last one wasn't even so much technical or physical or anything like that. It was diet. It was fucking diet and sleep. Diet and sleep. Those were the two most big changes I made my last camp.
Surprising, it took a little bit longer with being around Sean so much to catch on.
Because me and Sean are opposite. You know what I mean? Me and Sean are opposite. Like, we're the same as far as very few things, right? Like, we're the same. Like, he does like to have fun. Yeah. But he prioritizes, like, he is so concentrated because of the routine that he's had for so long that he knows what he wants. And a part of him, like, we've had talks, like, a part of him knows the work that he has to do is so much more because of the things that he doesn't have, right? Like, he's not 6'2". Yeah. He doesn't have long legs. He's got to build his body to be a certain way to be the best in that division. You know what I mean? He's a short guy for that division. So his extra workload is to make up for the things, I think, that are a disadvantage, like height and reach and things like that. And he's like one of the best grapplers in the world. That's what he's built himself to be. Like, there's not a single guy I've ever seen going, since I've been on the team, out grapple Sean ever. Yeah. Including me. Like, and I fucking suck compared to him on the ground. But it's like, you know, the dude's a freak. Like, he's concentrated and he does what he does and he knows his nutrition, but he put time into learning that, right? Like, he didn't just start out that way. From what I hear, he was... So I've never had the party life, right? Like, I never smoked cigarettes. I never did drugs. I never went out. I never was like taking girls home from the bar. That's not what I did. So I always used to be pissed off when I would see people make it, and I'm walking the straight and narrow and they're out here fucking off, and then they get the same opportunity. I'm like, how does this happen? Like, but I mean, Sean obviously has learned and developed himself to be the general on the team. You know, I think he's the captain of the team, and you know, he is probably the most knowledgeable guy nutrition-wise and is still learning. So I learned a lot from him. Yeah. He's the reason I figured out my stuff. Yeah. And we had to sit down at this last camp, and he told me I look like shit, and I agreed with him. And he was like, you don't have to take this fight. And if something's wrong, you need to not take the fight because this is your business. And, you know, he said the thing that I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. And, you know, I put together a plan. I went and got blood work done through his guy and figured out a lot of things. And
good. He's good for that too. Like, it's, he's the one that got me into jiu-jitsu. And I would say, like, I was the one that was always holding people accountable. But when I started jiu-jitsu, I was like that, like, go once a week, if that kind of guy. Yeah. It's like show up here and there. Sean called me every day. Like, yeah, you training today? Yeah, you training today?
Anytime we've been in, like, the three of us have been in the same place, he's even doing it to you.
And like, he holds me accountable. Like, still to this day. Like,
you train?
Yeah, like, he don't let you slack, and like, he's doing, like, to his testament, like, he's doing the work himself. Like, he's not gonna ask you to do anything he's not doing.
100%. But, you know, to go back to like how we are, like, we're opposites. Like, we have the same drive to be the best in the world. But the way we go about it is different, and that's okay. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, I'm a real sociable, outgoing, I think, person more than he is, but he's gotten obviously so much better at it. You know, but I'm also a little bit brash. Like, I walk that fine line of insults at all times and crossing the line at all times. Where Sean will just keep his mouth shut and keep his thoughts in his head. I will say it.
That's what makes you great, though.
Yeah, we're good for each other. We're good for each other. It's fun. It's fun. I feel like, you know, I make them laugh, and, you know, we have good training, man. We enjoy training together. So
that's cool. It's funny. I didn't realize until I started becoming friends with Sean that you had to actually punch each other in the face every day. Like, I thought, like, it was like a tapered effect, like, where it was like when we get closer to the fight, maybe you start punching, but like, it's like a fucking
fight every day.
It's a fight every day. I didn't realize that until a few years ago. But like, I was like shocked when I heard that. I was like, oh my God, like, you're fist fighting every day. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So when you love the guy that you're beating the shit out of, or vice versa, like, it's fucking.
Yeah, it is, and that's you know. But when you've done it for so long, you don't view it like.
Yeah, you don't think of it that way.
You don't view it that way, and it's you know, I've been punching people in the face a long time, and I'm actually an OG. It's just everybody thinks I'm new to the scene, you know. So I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm the kid because I made noise. Nobody thought I was going to do it.
That was the thing. Like, kind of open up the show. I'm kind of like, look, like, everybody thinks like you're a new kid on the block. Like, you rode this rocket, came out of nowhere. It's like you're OG.
That's why it's not hype, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's one thing that pissed me off of many is what was hype. Yeah. All I did was fight, talk my shit the way I do.
Yeah,
and that's just genuine feelings, though. You know, I'm not a character. I'm just who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm more confident in who I am, you know. So that's the only thing that's changed. Is I'm just more confident in who I am as a person as a whole. Where before it was like I can't even say timid's ever been who I am, but it's just a little bit more reserved. You know, now I'm just, there's so much cancel culture, man, and so many fucking restraints of what you should say. You shouldn't curse. You shouldn't be this. You're a role model for kids. Like, I want to be an inspiration, but I'm nobody's role model. So that's why I always say that, because I fuck up all the time. I say things I shouldn't, and that's okay. I'm an imperfect human being. So for anybody to make me a role model, never do that with another human being.
We all are, though. I mean, the celeb worship and
the hero worship is just, it's out of control, man. And it keeps people
perfect
from being who they really should be in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you think the reason that it took you so long to get here is because of the fact that you're not a people pleaser, or you're just your attitude towards life in general, or your training style? Like, do you think that's why people kind of, like you said, like kind of shut you out of certain things or try to kind of keep you down?
I mean, look, I think it's a couple things, right? I'm very brash. I've always been very brash. Like, I've very been blunt, to the point type of person. So I think sometimes when you're like, you know, you're trying to get a sponsorship or somebody to believe in your journey when you aren't in the UFC, it can come off as like, who the fuck is this guy? This arrogant kid, or he's just another, you know, because there's a lot of people to say, hey, like, I get people that tell me all the time, oh man, I watch you, you're inspiration. I'm going to see you one day. I'm going to be in the UFC with you. And it's like, yeah, okay, dude, like, whatever. Yeah. But I think it's, I don't know. I think it's, I just think it's people that don't understand, like, this didn't happen that slow for me. It happened pretty quick, believe it or not. Like, when they were talking about calling me when I was 6-0, and that 6-0 comes quick because I was fighting 3-4 times a year.
Yeah.
So, and I was luckily able, like, I didn't have any surgeries.
Yeah.
So I was fighting 3-4 times a year, and then it's all come really fast, right? Because my contender series fight, and then bing, 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 and I smoked 3 people.
When you came back, your second
When
contender,
I came back, I went after him. Yeah.
And then you're in your
Well,
first...
I came back and I had a CFFC fight to even get the call back.
Yeah.
It's not like I lost. They told me they would give me an immediate shot.
Yep.
That's what I was told. I don't know how truthful that was, so I'm not mad about it. But then I had to come back and they were like, nah, you got to get a fight. So I went and I got a fight, and I beat Derek Brunson's wrestling coach, who was like world team trials guy, like a high level wrestler. Knocked him out with the arm that I broke and had surgery on, and then I got the call back.
And then you got the call. Yeah. But your first 3 fights in the UFC were within a year?
A little over.
A little over a year, right?
Yeah, because I had injuries.
So I think that's where, like, people are getting, like, the, you know, oh, this happened so quick, this happened so...
Yeah.
But you've been doing that, it sounds like, since the very beginning. You've been fighting that often.
Go look at my record. Go look at my record, right?
Yeah.
You can't... Like, the guys I fought were bums, but you can't really, like... I've been still, you give me a can, I knock out the can. You know what I mean? So it's like, and now I'm doing the same thing against guys that are supposedly the best in the world, which they are, right? And there's less than 700 of us across the entire world. So that to me has been something I've been soaking in more, is because think about it. Like, there's less than 700 of us in the entire world across all weight divisions in the UFC. Yep. All countries. You know what I mean? So it's a huge fucking deal, and I'm gonna make it a huge deal as long as I'm in the UFC and doing well and loving what I do. So I think it all became hype because I was just me. I was different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody used to criticize me for how I talked or what I said or how I walked or whatever it was, and I never gave a fuck.
Yeah.
I just don't care how you think of me.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my greatest attributes to my character is I don't care how you feel. I don't care how you feel. I'm still going to do what I need to do.
You're free to be. You're free to be who you want to be, and you're free to do what you want to do.
Yeah. As long as look, I would care if I was like getting my ass whooped and doing something really wrong and be like, man, I got some self-reflection to do. Like, I shouldn't, but I know my attitude is right for the sport. And I know my aura is attractive to people. Whether you like me, whether you don't like me, you're still going to watch me. And now I got both sides of the crowd. If I lost a decision and that caused that much hate to say that my hype was derailed and I almost knocked him out, and I fought 5 rounds the first time in my entire life with basically 2 weeks of actual training. Come on, bro. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let me cook, bro. Let me cook. I'm good. I'm good. So I'm me.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been fast. It's been a life's work. It's just the result of what everybody else see. Yeah.
Exactly.
It takes it happens overnight, but it takes forever to get to that night. So.
Yeah. So let's touch on, kind of bring this in for a landing a little bit. Let's touch on the documentary. Where's that at right now?
Yeah, so I'm with an investment group named under the name of Disruptive Sports Group, and primarily it's a guy named Alex Davis, and we had signed with them, and their job was to distribute it and do all these things that have kind of like had a hiccup because Hollywood took like a strike, and it kind of like fucked things up for a little while.
Yep.
So we had like I guess like a passive deal with Netflix that we didn't like, then they had a deal with Paramount that we liked, but they went on strike, and then now we have like a deal with another company, which I'm not going to say because I haven't signed anything. So you know, I'm very irritated.
So it's
dude,
kind of moving.
It's kind of moving.
Okay.
It's moving. It's definitely moving. It's
Okay.
just how fast can these people get it to move?
Yeah.
And so there was this. Basically, the problem has been one of my best friends from high school, who does all my videography, Chandler, Henry. Me and him made this.
Yeah.
He made it while he was under a management company. We didn't write anything on paper, so they basically fucked us and took the rights to it.
Wow.
And they said that we own it because you made it under us and blah, blah, blah. And we paid for you to go out to Philadelphia or whatever to film.
Yeah.
So they basically snaked it, and there was nothing we could do legally about it because he took time off of work to do it. So it created this whole
So then you
thing.
got to get the rights back.
Yeah,
and then
so
you gotta do the
we
thing.
had to buy the rights back, and that's what this company did. And, you know, now it's like we're
okay.
trying to get the licensing for, like, or rights to music, the licensing, which we already were supposed to have.
Yeah.
So there's just, man, I'm so disgusted with it that if it ever comes out, it's like, again, the only thing I care about, I don't care if I get a dime from it. All I care about is that it reaches as many people
That's
as possible.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And,
I think
and,
the world should see it. I haven't seen it obviously, but
Yeah.
the
I'll
trailer,
let you see it.
the trailer makes me want to
It
like
looks
run through
fucking
that
lit.
brick wall
Yeah.
over there. Did he do the trailer too?
Yeah.
Chandler?
So Chandler's done everything.
Yeah.
Me and him, it's a cool story with him. He started out as a kid that had, you know, he's 6'9".
Yeah.
He's a tall ass kid, and he came to the schools, Pencrest, the same time I did. You know, he was, you know, from his own background of things that I'm not going to put out there, but
Yeah.
basically we became friends. We weren't that close, but we were cool. We always
Mm-hmm.
said hi. I used to pick him up and double leg him because he didn't think people could pick him up or anything. And, you know, we stayed friends throughout the year. And then he hit me he hit me one day and he was like, I know, you know, it's a sensitive thing, but you've been through a lot in your journey. He's like, I think your story's a movie. And he was like, I think it would be great for your audience to do this. And he was like, you know, I've never done something like this, so I would never try to butcher it or, you know, put something that you didn't like. And, you know, me, him, and Sam sat down and we did it. And we did the first one. I didn't like how I spoke then.
Yeah.
I thought I talked kind of stupid and still do at times, but I can get my point across, articulate
Yeah, man,
articulate it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
Very polished.
we redid it, and man, I don't like to watch it because it just pulls on my emotions. But it's a beautiful story for the sense of you guys. I can sit here and tell you everything, but I don't have enough time to tell you how emotionally draining or let you feel that. And I think the documentary lets you feel how like, shit, like why can't this kid just fucking get in? Like why can't he make it?
Yeah.
And I've done everything right. I did everything right. As far as like walking the straight and narrow, you know, there's things I could have done better, strength coach, blah, blah, blah. But when you don't have money, and you don't have guidance, and you don't have resources at that time, it makes it a lot harder. But I still fucking made it, and I'm here. And
refuse
but
to
I
be,
will let
refuse
you
to be a
guys see
victim
it.
of any of those things. I would love to, dude. I would
Yeah,
absolutely love to.
seriously.
I think the world needs to see it. The
I
world
think they will.
needs,
I think they will.
Not that the world hasn't heard your story, but it,
Yeah.
you know, every corner of the globe needs to hear your story. And it sounds like there's even like a little bit of a story behind the story with you and, you know, your friend that made it. So
It's
I'm
not too
super
much
pumped.
it's not too much in the documentary, but there is a story with me and him.
Yeah. I'm pumped to see it and to see what it becomes after it's released, because that's not the end of it. Once it's out there, who knows what else could happen.
And it's just different. So I'm happy and excited for the future. Sucks that I had to get back surgery when I just had a basically relatively no damage fight, but you know.
I mean, look, like you've been through a couple surgeries. Right?
What's one more?
And I'm saying, and like, you know, you've kept pushing forward.
Yep.
And it's only been greater and greater things
Yep.
in your path. So when I was talking earlier about the book of proof, like I don't see why this would be any different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe that's just the belief that I have in you, but I don't see why this surgery would have any other different outcome than the others did.
Well, I got all the
You know
right
what I mean?
people around me. I got Webbs with Jonathan Webb. That's my man, and he's getting me better, obviously, in the jiu-jitsu department. I got Marquez for my striking, and Sammy, and then I got the right teammates, man. I got the people to push me, so I'm enthusiastic, and I miss training, and only a couple more weeks till I'm able to start doing some lifting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait a second.
I just want to say, to confirm, I did watch that fight.
Yeah.
I did watch that fight.
Okay, all
right, cool.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, like, fucked up there. He's like questioning, and I'm like, oh my God.
I
Like,
thought
man,
it was a trap.
Well, it was
I'm
a
like,
very
wait second.
slow, like, look around. I don't.
Well, I was thinking back to the Jack fight. Like, that was like the most sticking one in my mind for some reason. But I did watch like the last fight.
Yeah. And one of the things you got to watch the shit I say before always kind of happens, but I was like, watch, when I knock this motherfucker out, I'll be right back where I am.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not right back where I was, but I mean, I'm right back on my typical self, finishing fights and getting knockouts and getting bonuses. So
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, you got performance tonight, right?
Yep.
I don't think you're back where you were. I think you're past that.
I do too.
And that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody else wants to put you back where you were.
Fuck everybody else.
But exactly. But you're looking forward.
They don't know shit about me. All they know is what Instagram puts up.
Yeah.
And half the time I'm not the one putting up the reels. I approve them and I watch them, and if I like them, cool. But the only thing I really put on Instagram is actually stories, because I detached myself from social media after so many people, turned and told me to kill myself and blah blah blah.
You gotta make space. You know what I mean? You gotta make space for.
Yeah. I'll go on there sometimes and I'll mess with people and respond back. I like
troll
being a troll
back.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to have a healthy
Yeah,
dose. Like
even that,
I can't always be doing that, or else I'm distracted because I'll get pissed off.
Well, the other thing too is like that brings them out more too.
Well, and they
like
shut down my Instagram.
Oh yeah.
They did.
Yeah, I called somebody a fucking turd and they blocked my shit, so I couldn't comment. I couldn't go live or anything. I was like, bro, all this shit people say, like
IG
I call
jail.
you a turd, or I said you were fat as hell or something, and like you're gonna ban me? Like it doesn't make any.
Yeah,
of all the
dude.
bad things I could say, come on.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
That's why it's it's not reality. That's what we got to remind ourselves of. You know what I mean? It's just
Fake
social
world.
media is not reality, dude. It's just
Bunch
not
of
reality.
fake smiles.
Yeah.
I don't smile all the time.
Yeah.
I was literally talking to someone about that the other day. It's like we wake up and go to live on this alternate reality world. Like that's like the first thing people do.
Yeah.
And they spend all day on there potentially. Like,
Bro, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
addicted to some of the reels though, like the Call of Duty reels.
I'd
I'd be raging on Call of Duty. I mean, I'd be canceled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm addicted to that. I love that, especially when it's like you push that one squad you're not supposed to, and it's like I don't know, they say some funny shit.
I haven't
your
I
gamer
played.
tag can't be Joe Pyfer, smoking
Yeah,
Joe
yeah.
Pyfer.
No, it's not.
We're not going to reveal
It's
that
not,
on the
it's
show,
not.
dude.
No, I mean I Twitch. I don't say anything. I say bad shit off camera. I'll admit that, but I ain't saying nothing bad on camera.
Yeah, there you go.
But everybody would be like, "You're a piece of shit for the bro." I would have no career. I'd be fired and everything.
Yeah.
That'd be.
I feel like everybody.
Video games bring out the worst.
So I'm not like I've only played Call of Duty once, and it was before. Like now, I feel like there's like servers.
Bro,
right?
you're
so
chatting.
everybody's Think
Think about how
Everybody's
weak.
chirping at
Think about how
everybody.
weak people are. You used to be able to go on there and say whatever, and now it's like you say asshole. You call someone a
Do they have
bitch or-
people like moderating it?
I don't know if they have people, but they have some. It's like a server
AI or
that
whatever.
it's like a moderator, and if it certain words like
But yeah, the
boom,
game.
14-day chat ban. Like
Oh really?
some
Oh,
kids
that's
talking
fun.
shit the whole
Chat ban.
time. Oh man, I love destroying little kids' dreams. On that. Bro, that's I love video games. I love cars, and I love having fun, man. So,
it'll never be nothing.
but if you're not busting on your boys like talking shit, like video games is like fun. Like that's I don't
Also, not the real world. So
just
you
sit
know what
there.
I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
So now you have to be mine. I don't know. It's corny.
Yeah.
There's nothing like rubbing it in a kid's face when you just like beat the shit out of them on there and they're crying.
Some 16-year-old in his mom's basement.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, at least I'm not going on
Who knows?
social media fucking
Joe
saying
Pyfer
bad
just
things.
kicked my ass.
True.
Yeah, I genuinely don't say anything bad on social media besides some troll stuff. But like, you know, like let me say what I want on a freaking video game, man.
Yeah.
It's so censored anymore. It
Yeah,
sucks.
it is.
But,
It is.
yeah,
It
totally
is,
separate
man.
subject. But anyway,
No censors here, though. It's free. So you're free to say what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
You've
yeah. Said
done,
a
you've
few
done a good
F-bombs.
job of walking that line, though, dude,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
entire time. So we appreciate it.
nah, I got to be responsible for the things I say.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
you got any other questions, Drew? Bring us in for
I'm good.
a landing.
bring
We
us in,
good.
dude.
appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate you coming in so close after surgery, last minute. I meant what I said about you changing the cycle, or that you've changed the cycle, and you corrected me and said you're changing it. And I think that only really heightens the respect that I have for you and what you're doing. So, man, thanks for coming in. I think we should run it back and maybe like gloves off. Yeah. No walking the line. You just come back and you just like
Say
spit
whatever
your
the fuck
shit.
you want.
Yeah, join a Call of Duty lobby with me on a private lobby. You
Maybe
got it.
Maybe that's what we'll do.
She's probably got some funny videos. I got some funny videos. But yeah, no, I appreciate you guys for having me. And we've worked together. Obviously, you guys were the people that gave me basically all of your clothes when I first got in the UFC as a gift and as a welcome. And I know we've fallen apart kind of a little bit as throughout whatever, but you guys have always been respectable. I love the gear, love the brand, and and especially first time meeting you, Joey, and I met you at the wedding, Drew, and you guys are good people, so I don't mind doing this, and I'm cool with it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Joe. We try to be, dude. Grateful for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same mission you are, man. Like every day, just trying to be better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank you for all those kind words. I'm going to take you up on the documentary.
I will.
Watching the documentary if you don't mind.
All right, my man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, leave the few with a reminder. Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. And remember, no one owns you. No one owes you. You're one of the few. Let's hunt.